You were probably up late last night wondering, why do we need negative numbers? Think about it. If you owned a car and it only went one way, it only went forward. Not exactly a good thing if the store you needed to get to was over there. How are you going to get there? You can't just go in one direction. It really helps to always be able to go and have a plan B, right? So that's where negative numbers come in. They are the opposite of our positive numbers that we're used to dealing with up to this point. So for most of us, we could deal with first in our life things that we could count on our fingers, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we got really good and we were able to deal with, oh, I have half of a pretzel, right? You can deal with your fractions and decimals. And then we started to get the concept of zero. I don't have any candy left. And then eventually our mind started to be able to handle negative numbers. And the big thing here, you just have to remember opposite, opposite, opposite. That's what that little dash means. It means that if you have a 1 and now you have a -1, you're the opposite, right? So you got to keep that in mind. It's just that little dash. Sometimes it's going to really cause you some sleepless nights, but just keep thinking opposite, opposite. Here are some examples of where we go sort of in that opposite direction. Stocks can lose value. We don't like it, but it happens. We like everything to gain, but it can lose value. Companies could lose money. You can be in a deficit. And you can also be below a starting point. You can have something as a baseline, and you can be, instead of going further in one direction, again, opposite, go in the other direction. Now, there are different ways that you can think of this in your head. As you saw in that number line, we went horizontally. Some people like to think of it vertically as well. And here are 2 examples. The fact of having a building that can go up and down, and having above ground level, and then thinking of a basement level, or even some parking garages go below ground level. Wonderful little sea level. You can be above sea level or below sea level. Again, that's having that idea of having that baseline and going in the opposite direction. So again, it doesn't necessarily have to be right or left, but you can think of positive negatives as also going up and down as well. Technical difficulty. Now, when we're dealing with school, is this example? Say here I am, and I park at school and I'm 18 feet away. Here you are, much fancier car, and you park 18 feet away. Who is really closer to the school? If you looked on a number line, and if we use the school as 0, here I am at -18, I'm on that side of 0. You're parked here at 18 feet, you're just on the other side of 0. Who is really closer? Well, that brings us to our probably first big mathematical term for today, and that is absolute value. Now, absolute value, I like to personally think of it as a washing machine for numbers, because you can put numbers in that washing machine. They can be positive, they can be negative, just like you put a clean shirt or a dirty shirt in that laundry machine, and out comes, it's clean. Even if it was clean going in, think of it like being positive, it comes out positive. Even if it was dirty, think of it as being negative, it comes out positive. So we'll use our little bars here to mean absolute value. So the -4, and we put it in that absolute value, comes out as a nice +4. Just like when we put a +4, putting it in, it comes out positive. So in that last example, when we talk about the absolute value, it wipes away which side of the school we're on, and where I am, or I was part, and a negative 18 on that number line has a value, again, just the value, no sense of direction, 18, and your 18, the feet that's on the other side, again, just the value. That's why they gave the name absolute value. No sense of direction, up or down, right or left. So technically, we are both equal. The absolute value of negative 18 is the same as the absolute value of 18. And one concept that you want to really try to start to hone in on, and that is being able to order numbers, ordering of numbers. The fact that as you go through, we put that greater than or less than symbol in between these pairs of values. Keep in mind to have that number line in your head. Don't be afraid to keep, that little whiteboard in your head of having that. That can really help you out. Even if sometimes in the beginning you got to sort of sketch it on your paper, that's not such a bad thing until you get used to it. I'm going to go grab a marker. And let's try some examples here. Now, 5 and a 1. If you're trying to compare those two, I would put this symbol in. 5 is bigger than 1. I still always remember my teacher always saying it was an alligator wanting to eat the bigger number. So my alligator's eating a 5 versus the 1. I still remember that fondly. Everybody has usually different ways to remember those greater thans and less thans. Now, when we get into those negatives, that's why I said keep that little mental image in your head. Here, positive 20 is over here on this side, negative 3 is over here. Right? Bigger numbers are always to the right. And say 20 is a positive number. And so, therefore, it is bigger than negative 3. Now, you'd read it as negative 3 is less than 20. Right? You could also have the same thing as 20 on this side is greater than negative 3. So there's always two ways to say the same thing. You're taller than me, or I'm shorter than you. So keep that in mind when you're dealing with inequalities. Now, this one, see if you can think of it in your head, negative 7 and a negative 4. Well, you're over on this side. Common thing, people want to say, oh, 7's bigger. And so they're going to think that the negative 7's bigger. But I don't know about you, but if I had a choice of being only down $4 or being down $7, I would choose that. Right? The fact that negative 7's way over here, negative 4's over here, again, the bigger numbers are to the right. Now, I'm going to pause for a couple seconds and look at this last one. Negative 6 and negative 12. Okay? When you think of a negative 6 and a negative 12, again, hopefully you're thinking of this symbol. That negative 6 is bigger than a negative 12. Now, some people argue with that because they think, well, negative 12 is more debt. I have more loss. Well, that's just it. You have more debt. You're further in the hole. And so you don't have more. You're more as far as being further away from zero. So who's closer to zero is if you're at negative 6 versus if you're at negative 12. Right? So practice some of these skills, and you want to get the concept of positive and negatives down because we're going to use that knowledge to be able eventually to add, subtract, multiply, and divide positive and negative numbers. Good luck.